Hello and welcome to Coffee with the Council. I'm Mike Reed.
And I'm Kimmy Podgorsak.
We are staffers and communication staffers with the Buffalo Common Council, and we are here joined today by Fillmore District Councilmember Mitch Nowakowski. Councilmember, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. We're a Monday after a Bills win, so I know that the city's temperature and excitement is pretty hot tonight.
Yeah, if it was a loss, I don't know if it would be this cheery this early in the morning. Councilmember, let's get right into it. So this past week, when the council meeting agenda was finalized, there was a letter on there that kind of is, kind of getting in the news a lot. Can you tell us what it's called?
Yes, our staff called it WAWA, so where are we at? So I think that it's really important for people to know that the City Council is on top of a lot of issues, and even though we're in a warm September, we know winter's coming, and after last year a really tumultuous blizzard and a few other storms, we realized that the city needed to be more prepared when we're talking about snow fighting and emergency management. So there is a letter that's been signed on by four of us, my Lovejoy District, the University District, and Niagara District Council member all joined in on a letter today, really a coalition of us, to ask the administration where we're at with a plethora of items when it comes down to fleet management and maintenance, capital purchasing of vehicles, the emergency manager, the fleet manager that the mayor really had stated was important. So we are asking a multitude of departments to come in and to brief the council of where we at and have we made significant progress to be able to face the challenges that we know will be ahead of us this season.
Yeah, it sounds like, this letter is a great first step. Have you heard anything from the administration yet?
We have not heard anything yet, so that's really important that all the commissioners that have been asked to come to the council come to the various committees so that they can address council members and their concerns.
You mentioned it. We're in September, but we could receive snow in October, November, obviously December. In this past blizzard that happened in 2022, there were a lot of things that were approved by the council, like the emergency manager and fleet manager. That was back in February. We are now in September. Why is this really important? Why are these positions important, and why are you advocating for the emergency coordinator position?
If I learned anything, I learned that being prepared, being able to take on tough tasks right when they start is the way that you keep people the safest. And the blizzard to me highlighted an inequity and really kind of how fragile we all are. I was stuck inside like everybody else and taking calls from social media platforms to my personal cell phone, you name it. People were contacting me in dire need. I had constituents that gave birth in their living room. I had constituents who were living with disabilities, unable to be able to take care of themselves. And what that's shown is really how delicate a lot of people in the city of Buffalo are living. So when we have resources, or we're able to get to them faster, or we're able to clear snow for emergency vehicles, that this is really important and that we need to not put our foot off the gas when we're advocating for our constituents.
Yeah, no, it sounds like, as I mentioned, this is a great step that we're going in. Are you able to describe the fleet manager? What exactly would that role entail? Has that been discussed at all?
It hasn't. So the fleet manager position was very important to the mayor when we were negotiating these positions and other things in February. The intention from the administration for the fleet manager was that they would be the person that would be able to maintain all those records of vehicles and then identify what needs to be purchased and when, and really do it with the logistics when the city purchases capital expenses like that, to make sure that we have the up-to-date and best equipment to be able to, for our departments to execute those duties of clearing streets and for public safety.
Since the blizzard throughout this past spring and summer and going into fall, what have you heard from residents? What are they hopeful that the city can do for them going into this snow season? You're hopeful that this WAWA can, answer some questions or change some things. What have you been hearing? What are you hopeful for?
Our constituents are very astute. They see and follow us and what their council members do. So a lot of them, that this letter was really triggered by them. The council member Bowman and myself have gone to block clubs where people have asked, are we better prepared for fall? Are we better prepared for emergencies and for winter and for snow clearance? So this letter really is just a follow-up from really advocating from them. So they're excited. They're happy that the council is really kind of taking the bull by the horns, but they're following along just like we, if we can, finish these items with the administration.
What are next steps with this WAWA?
The next steps are to hear from the department heads and to go from there. And then the council has already deliberated, so really we need those department heads to execute the will of the council and its members.
When will this be on, for people to watch? Obviously, we live stream our council meetings. When can people tune in and watch, these hearings or commissioners coming in, hopefully, to address these concerns?
Yes, the council has modernized a lot of our proceedings, so you can go on Facebook and watch it live in our committee. So the way that the council is structured is every other Tuesday is committees and then it's council. So you can simply follow along on our Facebook page and live stream, or in your own time watch those videos back.
And this will be, I think I have it right here, for the September 26th Civil Service Committee meeting, which you chair, the Civil Service Committee. So is that when we're hopeful that the administration and commissioners from all across the departments are going to be able to come in and address these questions that are in this letter?
Yes, 9:45 on Tuesday. We will be ringing into session, and we hope to get great participation from City Hall.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming to speak with us about that. Is there anything else that you want to, let us know is going on, or?
I would also like people to follow me on social media as well, because I'm constantly updating what we have going on in the community. We're going into fall, so not only are there back to school events, Allentown Association is coming on their 60th anniversary, Broadway Fillmore and the Central Terminal, and a lot of those groups are constantly having community events to bring people in. So just like, share, and follow me there.
Great.
And we'll share all of his councilmember socials for you all. But thank you for talking about WAWA with us, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Erie County Legislator Howard Johnson. Welcome back to Coffee with the Council. We are now joined by Erie County Legislator Howard Johnson, District 1. County Legislator, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. I'm happy to be here today and to talk about the district.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Well, do you want to tell us a little bit about your district?
So my district encompasses 5 councilmatic districts, 82,000 voters. It encompasses all of Fillmore District. Why you see me in the council member partner so much. About 85% of Lovejoy, all of Ellicott, the Lower West Side of the Niagara District, and about 30 to 40% of Maston District. So I have a pretty large area that I cover.
You have a lot of bosses, over 80,000.
Yes, yeah. 82,000.
82,000. That's a lot of bosses. All right, so you're here with Councilmember Nowakowski, which you said your district has all Fillmore. Tell us a little bit what you guys have been working on. I know there's a lot, so if you guys want to take it over, what's been going on between you two?
There's a lot. We've done a lot together in our 4 years when we're identifying funding to bring back to our district to improve it. The one that was just bidded out for next year is Fillmore Streetscape, which the $1 million was secured by the legislator to make sure that we can work on the lighting and the sidewalks and the infrastructure of Fillmore Avenue, because we know, at least for the Fillmore district, to be able to have that main street looking beautiful and up to date is what I want residents to be able to see every single day.
What's the timeline on there? Is there any timeline right now, or are we just in the early phases of this?
Early phases, so it was bidded out for next year.
Very nice.
And I think the partnership with that is so key, because in past you haven't seen this level of partnership between county and state, and we wanted to embark on something to show that separate entities of government, county, state, can work together to bring resources to impacted communities.
Talk about working together, you two. You guys had a backpack giveaway recently. Tell us a little bit about that. Where was it? How many people came? How many kids? What did you guys have? Tell us a little bit about that.
We did, yeah. So we started it, actually our first year in office was 2020. So we really had to deal with a lot when really the pandemic had started. So we started as a drive-through, but now since the pandemic has waned away, we've been able to have it at the Central Terminal and make it more of a community event. So we bring out a lot of other vendors, from the library to the bookmobile, to health services, to food. So that's really important. And this year, I think for myself, that's so important is the majority of people that came were walkers. We saw people that were living directly adjacent to the Central Terminal on Bryson and Concord and and near the central or the Broadway market. So we do that because we know that school supplies is very expensive, and to help working families, we got to help them get back to school.
And I think the bigger point is that that's a marginalized community, very impoverished, where that they, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't, they don't receive those services. And you could tell by the number of walk-ups we had, some of the same faces we've seen for the last, every year since we held it there, some of the same faces you recognize that come up to grab these backpacks. So it's, it's very important that, that's something we continue to do.
Yeah.
Wow, well, it must be, very rewarding getting to work together. Has there been anything else that you two have been collaborating on, anything in the works?
We're always up to something when it comes to. So, for our district and for our residents, and we're actually working, well, at least for myself, is I have a large portion of Airbnb rentals in my district, and that's kind of exacerbating a housing crisis, but also creating a tax inequity. So, for me, at least, I'm working hard to get Airbnbs up to the standards and qualification and notification to the city to make sure that they're adhering to our laws. But Howard is actually taking this into the county legislature that he can explain.
Well, so what we're proposing and what I'm working on with our the administration is a modernization of the hotel occupancy tax. What folks would know as the bed tax. The platforms collect the money from the Airbnb rentals, but they haven't been sending the money along to the county. So what we have to do is modernize the tax so we can, trigger it so we can collect from them. It'll be something that they opt into, but we most of them will probably opt into it, to pay that tax. Just like hotels pay a bed tax to Erie County, we're asking those rental companies to do the same thing.
Because when you look at it from even a smaller level of government, where I'm at is, he's, going to collect the tax, because also when we have visitors and we have people that are using those rentals, that's wear and tear on our infrastructure and our services. So the money needs to be derived somewhere to be able to provide those services to the city of Buffalo and to residents. So really with him closing the loop on that, it's really to make sure that, we're taking care of our responsibility.
And is this all done, or is it still in the works?
Well, this is still in the works.
Okay.
We're actually working on it now. This modernization of the tax is just weeks away.
Okay.
It's just weeks away from doing. We've had our public hearing. We've already had a discussion. We've had those conversations across the aisle. So everything is looking good with that. We're probably going to introduce it sometime as the budget comes out for the county.
Yeah, I was going to ask how the public can get involved in more information if they were curious about this. So is there any more public hearings, or where can they go to
we
learn
had the
more?
public hearing. It was well attended. We did it at the convention center because, some of those tax dollars we want to take, the revenue we collect, we want to take to put towards tourism, to promote tourism, and to put a little towards affordable housing to help, to help with that crisis as well.
And this will be throughout the county, correct?
This is throughout the county.
So
yes.
everyone's going to benefit from this.
Yeah, everybody's going to benefit from this. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, well, that sounds very exciting. I know you mentioned a little bit about, having people come and visit. Has anything been going on at Canal Side? Anything exciting there?
Really, when we talk about Canal Side, it's like a complete difference from when we grew up. In 2010, no one was talking about Canal Side. Nobody was using it. And with Congressman Higgins, who really made it a platform of his career to make sure that we can have regional tourism, but also Buffalonians enjoy Canal Side, we're starting to see, which is completely in my district, a revamping of it, and now people living there. I also want to just make sure that every time when we talk about Canal Side, making sure that we can allow everybody to be able to live on our crown jewel, because that water belongs to all of us. So making sure not only activities, but the infrastructure and accessibility Canal Side are there. Marine Drive Apartments will be getting a complete overhaul. So 616 units will now be revamped, and a lot of those buildings will come down and rebuilt. So when we're seeing not only the restaurants be patroned, but we also see people living there, creating that density of Buffalonians enjoying that, is something that's going to make our future better for all of us.
You mentioned tourism. There's a lot of tourism talk going on here. What are you hearing from residents about, with the Airbnb tax and with Broadway Fillmore and the Broadway Market and Fillmore District or Fillmore Ave getting redone? What are you hearing from residents about all these exciting things happening and visitors?
I think one of the things is that, they're excited about it. Folks come into the area, taking a look at our area. And from that, sometimes you get folks that move to the area. You have a lot of folks who are coming back this way. It was a big push, everybody going south at one time. But Buffalo is becoming a place where everybody wants to come to. So that's one of the bigger things that I found out in conversations with some of the community is that they're excited about, the tourism piece and people potentially coming to see what the city has to offer.
And as a council member, you have to balance budgets and pass them. So when we're talking about tourism, we're talking about sales tax too, that make sure that we can collect dollars to be able to provide the services that we do that keep people safe and invest in our city every day.
Seems like a lot of exciting things happening in the Fillmore District and District 1.
We're on the move.
Yes. County Legislator, is there anything else that we missed you want to tell folks at home?
You know what? Here's another, I don't want to call it an exciting piece, but here's some information the community might not have been aware of. So recently, we had a body cams initiative to go into the holding facility and the correctional facility and then the sheriff's officers to wear. So the unions just hammered out that piece of negotiation. They've started to actually put cameras in the holding center and correctional facility to, catch all the blind spots, and having the officers wear those cameras, which would be very important to transparency in the sheriff's office. We've since Sheriff Garcia's come in, we've taken a relationship that was bad with Tim Howard to make something that was, more workable. So he's been very good to work with. He's been upfront, transparent with us, and we have a great open dialogue now with the sheriff's office.
That's great. That's great. I'm sure a lot of people at home will be happy to hear that. Well, County Legislator, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining Councilor Nowakowski on this segment.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. And hey, just invite me back again. We can share more good
Permanent
news.
spot here at the table. Well, thank you for joining us again, and we'll be back with Community.
Welcome back to Coffee with the Council. We are in our community section. Councilmember Nowakowski, what's the tea?
I love it because we have a lot to spill because there's always something going on in my district. But the first thing that most people connect to my district are the cultural assets like the Central Terminal in my district. And as a lot of folks know, the first initial phase and tranche of money of $55 million from the state, the governor committed, will be going to the first phase. But I want to be able to model good behavior and give good expectations. It really needs $150 million to be able to do it. But we do have phase one where it's run by the executive director, Monica Pellegrino-Fakes, who has wonderful attributes to be able to do this. I mean, she's done this in other areas of the city as well, of taking these cultural assets to the community, shoring them up, and then really returning them to public use and space. So they are currently having their master plan and meeting with the first phase developer of who it will be. Their selection committee is made up of a lot of residents that I represent. So that type of participation is critical to me to make sure that people that have lived around the terminal for so many years be able to see what they want to see in something that they've lived in and around their whole life. But it really goes back to a wholehearted conversation of Broadway Fillmore, and there is a lot of beauty that's happening in it, but it is the most demolished area in the city of Buffalo. Over 30 years, the way that the city had handled dilapidated housing and the lack of density was just simply to demolish homes. So it's been a big priority of mine to make sure that we get infill housing. The way we have healthy and sustainable communities is by having people in that community. So people that are on their front porch, walking their dogs, taking their kids to school, and really building neighborhoods and camaraderie together and living amongst each other. So we have the Eckert building at 950 Broadway. It's the cornerstone of the corner of Broadway and Fillmore. So we were able to work with Cedar Land Development, and that will see a head start at the bottom. It will also see well over 26 affordable units that are 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom, and a few I think that there's 2 units that will be 4 rooms. And why I accentuate the room number is because when we see new housing being built, we only see 1 bedroom, and that's just not real. We have to be able to build housing stock that accommodate families and people and children, and because we want to make sure that when we're building housing, we're building it for everybody.
The Eckhart building down 50 Broadway, you recently toured it. How's the progress going? You know, where are they in their demolition and, you know, not demolition, but, you know, just kind of rehabbing it, we could say.
Well, as you walk through it, it gives you the feels of that it was an old department store, Sattler's that it was. It has beautiful columns, and there's actually a funny photo of myself with the chairwoman, April Baskin, when we were actually in one of the display units outside, because really it's an adaptive reuse of taking an old department store but making it a multifunctional space. So it's beautiful. There are some views that I might even want to move into. I mean, that it's really all centered around the windows. So one section was down to the studs, but one was being drywalled. So seeing is believing, and I'm confident that we'll be cutting the ribbon on it and having people live in that cornerstone building soon.
You know, that's really wonderful. And the fact that you mentioned that it's for not just one person who might be a businessman or a businesswoman, it's for families. That's really great to hear, because in a lot of apartments you don't see that. So it's great that that's going to be in your district for families who might be moving here or whatnot.
And we'll also be, having, with the DRI grant, a lot of money came to Broadway Fillmore to help the central terminal, but I basically said we have to do both. So we have to help the central terminal and the Broadway market, but also the surrounding neighborhood. So on Plater Street between Petoresky and Broadway, you'll then be seeing a whole new infill housing project that'll be accommodating families as well. So building up that density is really critical, and I know that what that follows is an improved neighborhood.
I'll go back to the terminal for a second. You obviously had your backpack giveaway there with County Legislator Johnson last month. Can you tell us what physical things that people can start seeing with the terminal? I know there's like fencing all around, but is there anything physically that people can start seeing in the next couple weeks, months, going into next year?
Yes, the fun stuff. Yes. So the first is the terminal had to do was just make it structurally efficient, and making sure that it was asbestos removal and fixing the roofs and kind of the things that you really need but that aren't really attractive that you can't see. But you will start seeing a bidding for new windows, and the real next phase is to plan for the Great Lawn. I know I have my own hopes and dreams of what that looks like, so I'm kind of working with the terminal of what we can do, because that really should be a community space where there are concerts and there's events where everybody in the neighborhood can enjoy that natural green space, because it is surrounded by 33 acres of land.
Yeah, I mean, the terminal's for the whole community. It's not just for one section, it's for the whole community. Everyone needs to be able to enjoy it, the green lawn, the green space.
And Mike, sometimes, historic preservation people are, pushed back, but let's face it, these assets, the central terminal is an architectural beauty. It cannot be replicated. We don't have the materials, the craftsmanship, or the ability to be able to build these buildings. So to me, it's one of the backdrops of Buffalo. I know people connect with it from its history and what it meant back in the day, but what it also means now. So I'm thrilled that it'll see an adaptive reuse.
Yeah, what's great is that, the terminal, while it's going, under renovations and construction, we're still using it for things. That's what's great. And you had your backpack giveaway there, and there's been concerts.
I want kids to build a connection with it, can you imagine, in 20, 30 years when people remember being able to go to the central terminal, for trick or treat or for a backpack, their parents were able to get flu shots, seniors were able to get helped, pets. So these are all events that help build people up and build neighborhoods up.
Well, I think we're out of time. I think that about does it for this edition of Coffee with the Council. Councilman Nowakowski, we wanted to thank you for coming on the show today and telling us about WAWA and spilling the tea in the community.
Thanks for having me.
And we're going to do a little cheers just
Okay.
as a thank you for joining Coffee with the Council. Go Bills.
Cheers.
Thank you.